we evolve, because it's what we can do. It's what we should do. Today, tomorrow, forever.
Join me in closing your eyes. Let's take one breath together. A second breath together. That second breath, you can open your eyes, that second breath that we all took together came to us from the oceans. So 50% of the oxygen on our planet is actually produced by tiny plants in a vast, large ocean on our planet. So we could start and probably end a conversation about the importance of oceans there, that they fill our lungs with oxygen, that every other breath we take comes from the sea. But not only do the oceans provide oxygen for us, fill our lungs, they also fill our stomachs, and they fill our wallets. We can look at some of those other values too for the oceans. So food. The oceans are essentially a refrigerator full of some of the most nutritious, free-range food on our planet. Now, I and other colleagues in research sat down and we looked at exactly how many people depend on seafood. And it turns out that 845 million people on our planet are kept just one step ahead of diseases associated with malnutrition as a result of access to seafood. What that sort of boils down to across our planet is that a lot of people out there are facing a future where they either have fish and rice for dinner or simply rice for dinner. So it's incredibly important that we get that food and that nutrition keep coming to us from the oceans. Wealth. So the oceans, if you were to consider them a country, would have the 7th largest economy in the entire world. Their assets together, sort of collectively, are worth $24 trillion with a T. So that's an immense amount of worth in our global wealth portfolio that comes to us from the sea. So the oceans fill our lungs, the oceans fill our stomachs, the oceans fill our wallets. If you accept this premise that the oceans are so important to us and on these diverse different levels, on these diverse different axes, then I want to sort of pivot from here and talk a little bit about how technology has shaped the health of the oceans both in the past and the future, how it shapes the provisioning of those important values that come to us, the air, the food, the wealth that comes out of the oceans. And I am going to put forward a hypothesis for you that technology is both a good thing and a bad thing for the oceans, both a yin and a yang, because it's created problems and it's created solutions for us in the oceans. We can maybe start that conversation by zooming back a little bit. We'll go to the World War II, and this was a time of great acceleration for technology on the oceans. We actually developed all kinds of new technologies that help ships go farther and faster and operate deeper. We had diesel-powered engines that were rapidly developed. We had sonar on ships that helped them search for things like submarines. All of this towards the end of being able to do war at sea. But all of this new technology we ramped up, that we accelerated during World War II, we repurposed after the war. And we repurposed that to making war on fish. We took a lot of these technologies that we developed, we brought them into the industry of fishing, we created this industrial fleet of mega fishers that now roam our oceans and have changed our oceans significantly. There was a scholar called Thomas Huxley, which at the end of the 1800s famously said, there's no way that we would ever overfish our seas. And unfortunately, he was wrong. The adage that there are plenty fish in the sea, because of the technology and how that sort of empowered us to really shape, to extract more than we ever thought from the oceans, proved Thomas wrong, proved all of us wrong. Over a third of our global fisheries are now overfished. In many parts of the sea, there are no longer plenty of fish in the sea. Technology has also shaped other parts of the future of our oceans and impact them here and now. One of those impacts is that industry has been powered by technology that's produced all kinds of things that we need, all kinds of things that we want for life, but has produced a few things that we didn't want. Things like pollution. Pollution that's powered the advance of climate change on our planet. And that is the new mega threat that's facing our oceans. The oceans, as a result of climate change, are getting hotter. They're getting more acidic, and they're becoming a harder place to breathe in. You just sort of imagine what a challenge that presents for ocean wildlife and for ocean health and all the things we need from the oceans. If you think of an aquarium you might have at home or a friend's aquarium, and if you were to go to that aquarium and you were to unplug the bubbler that provides oxygen, if you were to crank up the temperature knob, and if you were to slowly but surely start dripping in acid into that aquarium, boy, that would be bad for your fish in the aquarium. And slowly, but surely, that's exactly what we're doing to our oceans. So there are some clear challenges that technology have presented to our oceans. How about some opportunities? How about some solutions? What can we do to maybe turn around the damaging impacts of technology and make those into solutions? I want to start us on the journey thinking about how technology can help us in the oceans by playing you one of my favorite songs. So I was sitting in my office at UC Santa Barbara on a Sunday, and I got a call. The call was from the Coast Guard, and they said, we have a real problem. We have a whale, a humpback whale, that's stuck way back in our harbor, and it doesn't know how to get out. And this is bad news. It's running into ships. It's running into boats. It's running into the shore. You're a marine biologist. What do we do? I thought, well, okay. I know a few things about whales. Whales, in fact, are not too dissimilar on many levels than some of the students in my class at university. They're incredibly intelligent, and they're strongly motivated by food. So I thought, what can we do? That song you just listened to was the feeding call of a humpback whale. I knew that researchers, colleagues had made those recordings. I downloaded those recordings onto my iPhone, ran down to the harbor, put a high-powered underwater speaker at the exit of the harbor, played this song, this feeding call that you just heard over and over again all night long. Eventually, the whale heard that call, made its way out, and made its way to freedom. So there's just one example of how a little bit of technology can help a little whale in our big ocean. But as I've said, the problems facing our ocean are pretty grand. So what other things can we do with more ambitious use of technology to try to address some of these issues facing our oceans? Here's an example. This up here looks like a map. It's in fact not a map. It's a whole collection of data. So I, working with collaborators at Google in a group called Global Fishing Watch, we sat down and looked through, using machine learning algorithms, billions and billions and billions of data points that were coming off sensors from vessels that were roaming our oceans. And then we filtered out exactly which boats were fishing and figured out where they were fishing, and we plotted that, and that's what this is. This is pretty neat for marine biologists because it's like turning the lights on in the oceans. What we saw was that fishing was everywhere. This is why it looks like a map, because fishing is happening everywhere on our planet except on dry land. We're outlining the borders of the continent with the behavior of fishing. Now, this was, as I said, really powerful to see how much fishing was happening on our planet, but it was also really insightful. What could we do with this insight that came from technology? Here's an example of exactly what we can do with this. In black here, this square is a protected area. It's a huge protected area, about the size of California. It was created by a country called Kiribati, way out in the Pacific. A really wonderful, ambitious thing. Kiribati is in fact actually not a very wealthy country, so it made it even more special. But they don't have, because they don't have a whole lot of resources, they didn't have ships and they don't have planes and helicopters to send out there to look after this park that's supposed to protect wildlife in the sea. So we tried to help from 1,000 miles away with our technology. We used that tool I showed you, these sensors and these machine learning algorithms, to track how much fishing was inside the protected area, this park, before it closed. And that's why you see all the lights on, fishing as usual inside the protected area before it closed. And we looked back when it had closed. Happily, a lot of the boats had left. It was doing exactly what we hoped it do, except you see a couple data points there. There was a boat that looked like it was fishing inside this protected area where it didn't belong, where it shouldn't be. We took this data, sent it down to the governor of Kiribati. They folded it into an enforcement package that they were using to fine, ultimately, this illegal fishing vessel $1 million. So sitting all the way on the other side of the world with a little bit of technology and a handful of ocean geeks, we were able to do something that mattered for manta rays and marine mammals and sea turtles that occupy that box of space way out there in the Pacific. And that felt good. Let me give you another example, a last example here about sharks. It's what I like to call bringing sharks into the Internet of Things. So we track sharks. We take sensors and technology similar to the kinds of GPS trackers that you have inside your phones. We strap those to the back of the sharks, let them go, and as they go traveling on the ocean and pop their fins sort of Jaws style above the surface of the ocean, they send off a signal. They tell us where they are, and I can sit home in Santa Barbara, drink tea, and see the soap opera of sharks unfold. and learn some pretty spectacular things about these sharks. So for example, this particular study was a study of a reef shark. Everybody thought, including me, that this reef shark stayed on the reefs. We discovered, in fact, it made these long journeys way out into the open ocean. It was going hundreds, thousands of kilometers away from reefs. Now that was a pretty cool discovery in of itself, that there was something secret we never knew about a shark that we thought we had all the answers for, but it was also very useful. Useful because we were called into a meeting a couple of years ago with people from the White House, some scientists, and they said, tell us what you know about marine life out in this space. We shared this data file along with other researchers that had similar technologies that were telling the same scientists, sea turtles need more space, seabirds need more space, whales and dolphins need more space. They listened to the data, they listened to what the technology was telling us. They then created, and the president created, the world's largest protected area, a safe space for all of that biodiversity as a result of what we learned from this technology. Another move where we could sort of demonstrate the power of technology for learning about the oceans and shaping the future of the oceans. So this moment right now is critically important. The past 100 years, we've seen a lot change on land. Now mark my words, the next 100 years, we're going to see a lot change in the oceans. But I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that things are going to come out right because of the emerging intelligent technology that I see coming up, popping up all around us. I'm optimistic, more importantly, because of the intelligence of the people that I see emerging as new generations behind this technology, all of you guys. I think that there's a great opportunity for us to do something positive to shape the future of our oceans using this coupling of smart minds and smart devices. Now, I know you guys, younger generations here, students, I know you guys get a lot of hard time for spending too much time behind devices and technology. And I'm not here to let you off the hook, but I'm here to actually give you a higher calling. We need those smart minds and those smart devices to do more than figure out how to put bunny ears on pictures of our friends. We have whales to save together, guys, and I need your help. Equally importantly, perhaps more importantly, we have to look after the mammal on the other side of this picture, us. Our fate is inextricably linked to the fate of the oceans. We need to leverage the power of technology, leverage the power of your own creativity to help problem solve to a future that's sustainable and healthy, that keeps that air, keeps that nutritious food, keeps those jobs and that prosperity coming for our oceans. Importantly, we need to get that future we need from the oceans so that we have the inspiration and the beauty that's always come to us from the sea to make sure that that keeps coming to us from the oceans forever. Thank you.